People often focus on their front yards when it comes to Christmas lights, but if you have a rear fence, you're missing an opportunity to make a huge impact and spread some holiday cheer. This is the Professor's Workshop with Dr. Rick and Simon, and today we're going to show you how you can transform your back fence with custom Christmas lights. Good boy. He don't work for free, y'all. Good boy. Now, when people hear custom, they think expensive. That's not always true. You can do this project, this entire fence, with some C9 spool wire, and you can get this in custom sizes. I'm going to link everything that I use in today's video in the video description down below so that you can buy this and that you can do this yourself. Now, as someone who does Christmas lights as part of a side business, I buy this in 1,000-foot rolls. That's a lot of C9 Christmas wire. You can buy them in smaller rolls. You can buy them in custom sizes. If you have an Ace Hardware, you can go down and say, hey, I've got 27 feet of fence. I need C9 Christmas wire, and they will cut that for your custom length. That saves you some time there. This spool wire is also what you will see us use in the professional lighting industry for ground lights. You can put a stake on these and they go on pathways and outlines. And you will also see these on people's roof lines. You'll see them across gutters. So this stuff is like the gold standard in the Christmas light industry. I'm also going to use some SPT wire. This is 18-2 SPT wire. Again, I'll link it in the video description down below. And I'll use that to make custom cords so that I'm not running long, big, bulky extension cords throughout my entire yard. And you can see my helper is tired. He's already decided to take a break. But to be fair, it is 92 degrees in the middle of November here in Houston, Texas. The third thing that I'm going to use is a timer, and this is going to allow my lights to come on and go off at a time that I set. And I like these. These are the manual ones where you set the specific time. I don't like the dusk to dawn timers because if it's a cloudy day, it'll throw the entire timer off. So I like these. These are a little bit old school, but I love them. And then we are going to tell them about our vampire plugs. Not a treat, that's a vampire plug. These are vampire plugs. And they are called vampire plugs because if you look on the inside, they've got little metal teeth. So these are SPT plugs. But in the trade, you'll hear them referred to as vampire plugs. And I will use these vampire plugs, the male end and the female end, to create custom wiring for my display. I will also use these for the power supply at the end of my lights. I'm going to start at the end of the fence nearest my power supply. So for me, my power supply is back here, and so I'm going to run a wire along here and plug up into the lights. So I'm just going to start with my custom wire. At the end here, I'm going to need a male power supply so I can connect this into power. So to do that is really simple. So simple that I can do it with one hand while filming this. You can see the vampire teeth inside of that. If we look at the outside, one of the plugs is wider than the other plug. The wider plug is always going to be the power. This is going to be the positive and this is going to be the neutral. That's going to be important because when we look at our wire has two sides. You can see this ridged side. You can see the ridge and you can feel it compared to the smooth side with no ridge. Smooth, ridged. The side of the wire that is ridged is always going to line up with the vampire plug, so the metal tooth of the thicker prong. So we have the thicker prong versus the smaller prong. So if I look, that thick prong there, the vampire plug is on the right. So when I do this wire, I need to make sure that the ribbed side lines up with that plug on the right. So I need to do it this way. So now the ribbed side of my wiring is lining up with the vampire plug for the positive terminal. Just going to put it in, pull it down, then I'll use the cap, and I'll push that cap on. I'll squeeze it with some pliers. Again, I'm doing this one-handed, guys, and my helper is not helping. So once I have that plug, this is going to be the power end of my lights. That's going to go at the end where my power supply is going to run to. I'm then going to run my lights all the way down to the end of my fence. And at that end of the fence, I'll cut my wire. And to cut it, you just use scissors. I like to cut right in the middle or closer to this if it's at an end. So this is the end of my lights all the way down there. Then what I'm going to do is use black electrical tape, and I'll just wrap some electrical tape around this. You don't need a plug at the end of it if it's at the end of your lights. So you can see here, got electrical tape at the end of the lights there. And here's the secret of how we attach the lights to the fence. These are magnetic clip bases. Now to attach the magnetic base, all you're going to do is put it on and twist. You can see it has grooves that line up perfectly with that wire. And then you just spread them out. There's a pet peeve of mine that I hate when Christmas light installers do this. When they sit the lights on top of a post, I think that looks funky. So even if you've got an excess, just space it out a little like this so that it's not sitting on a post. It's going to give you a much cleaner look than if it is elevated as you go down your fencing. Now to make my custom length extension cords, I'm using my SPT1 18-2 wire, and you can get this in multiple colors. I like brown or green because it blends into the grass. Don't get white because it's going to stand out. I'm going to start by putting a female plug that is going to attach to the end of my lights. And we do this in exactly the same way that we use these vampire plugs, the Christmas lights. So we're going to look and we're going to see there is a wider opening and a smaller opening. Rib side goes to the positive side, so I'm going to put it up to where it matches up. Push it down. Push my cap on. I'll secure that all the way, and now I've got a power plug that will connect into my lights. Now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to unspool it however long I need until I get to my outlet. At my outlet then, I will cut the wire, and on that end of the wire, I will use a male plug, just like we did 2 times before now, and then this will be what plugs in to your timer. And just like that, you have a custom extension cord for your custom lights that you're going to wow your neighbors with. So here we are at a client of mine's house, and I'm going to be putting her fence lights out again this year. And you can see she has a beautiful backyard with well over 100 feet of fencing that really does make an incredible impact when the sky is lit up. I'll show you how I do it. This fence goes all the way down, curves around the sidewalk, and goes around the lake. And all of those lights are right here. Do you not think that that is enough lights to do this entire section of fence? But it is. So if you store them properly and you put them on a big spool like this, and you have easy access to just put them back up the next year. I, so when I get a job for fence lighting like this, I will do my measurements and I will get how many feet of light that I need. And then I'll go over with the customer and I'll say, okay, what kind of lights do you want? And you can see here, this customer is doing white, red, white, red. A lot of people will actually use these and they will do them for Halloween. They'll do them in purple or they'll do them in orange. And then they'll change them out for Christmas. They'll change the bulbs out for Christmas. And so I will sit on my couch. I will cut the Christmas spool wire to the correct length for that specific customer. And I will go through and I will put all of the bulb bases on, and then I'll put all of the bulbs in. And that way, when I get to my client's job, all I've got to do is attach them. And you can see how easy this is. So I can sit at home and do all of the hard work while watching TV. And then it's just literally click, click. I'm not even going to have to speed the video for this up. You guys are going to see just how crazy fast these go up when you've done the legwork at home watching TV. And you'll notice here, because I did these, remember my pet peeve is when Christmas light folks put these on top of the post, but these lights space around those posts. That is intentional. This video now being interrupted due to fire ants. All in my shoe. Well, let's take the other shoe off. Life must go on. Kept wondering, what is this pricking my leg? And it started to burn. Well, stepped in fire ants somewhere. Let's hope I don't step in them with sock feet now. So I have a power supply end that's going to run down to this power box with a timer. And then I go all the way down to the gate. And if you have a gate, you got one or two things that you can do. Sometimes I see people span the lights across the gate, but then your gate's not going to open all season. You can see here, this gate opens with the lights attached. And then they go all the way down to finish out. So here's what I do for gates. I end my power supply right beside the gate, and I'll put black electrical tape on it. Then I'm going to start my lights at the edge of the gate, and you'll see here that I have black electrical tape at the end of that. I'll space my lights out, and then at the end of the gate, I will cut it, and I will put a male power in, a power supply end. It's like this, right here at the end of this. And then I will start my lights up again on the opposite side of the gate and go down. Now, how I get power to this is, this fence is so long that it does require two boxes. All of these lights can run off of the same electrical outlet, but it's going to require two boxes because of how I've split this gate up. So I'm going to have my male end, and then I need power to this strand of light. So I've started another power supply here, because this is going to be the next strand of lights, and I'll run power this, and I will zip tie around the fence post, and I will go up alongside the bench over into this electrical outlet here for a very nice, clean install. Now you may say, well, Rick, how are you going to get power to the gate? Because now we have power to that section, we have power to that section, but the gate's not powered. So to power the gate, I'm using a pass-through. And so this is a pass-through plug. This is just a female plug that I've taken the end out, and I've attached it the same way. And then I've run a very small, essentially a very small extension cord to this section of lights here. So I've passed through this plug to this, and that is how you get your gate to open with your lights on it. The only difference in the pass-through is you can see this is a male plug. It is only open at one end. And for a pass-through, you'll see that this is open on both ends. So I'll put that on just like that, slide the connector on, and then that allows me to pass through, hence pass through into the power. So I'll do the pass through, and then I can do the extension cord into this, and it will light that middle section of lights. You can also use pass-throughs if you have other things that you want to light. So for instance, at one point the homeowner talked about maybe doing lights down this side section of their fence. And so I put a pass-through here that would allow to easily connect in to those lights if they wanted to add anything there. So you can add the pass-through to power other things along your display. But I'm done. You can see I've got the entire section of lights. Now for a clean professional install, I will use zip ties to attach the power supply down this fence post. I will also use black electrical tape to keep it snug, and one more zip tie here. Now, as I run my wire around the back of this, I will use hot glue, and I will just put hot glue, and I will carefully tack it in there. I will go around the masonry, and then even down on the bottom here, I will put a few dabs of glue just to try to hold this wire down to keep it from rising up and people tripping as they go out the gate.
And here's all of the colors that you can choose from. I love these holiday bright lights. They're professional grade. You can go from warm white, pure white, faceted bulbs, all the way down to old school incandescent looks. Plenty of color options here. And just like that, you've got a beautiful addition to your Christmas lights, and you have saved hundreds of dollars by doing it yourself and not having to hire a professional installer. Any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments down below.